Part of Louisiana's master plan to fight coastal erosion calls for river sediment diversion.
Yeah, but many of the state's oyster fishermen strongly oppose that part of the plan, saying it will destroy their fisheries and fail to build much land. Dennis Waltering takes a closer look.
In a boat built for speed, Van Robin moves slowly through the harbor at Hopedale Marina as he describes what he thinks government should be doing to save what it can of Louisiana's vanishing wetlands.
I feel that we need to build islands out here. We need to build land, reinforce the land that's here already.
Robin points out that the land along this inlet is several feet above water, perfect for building up and saving before it's too late. And he adds,
where they had islands that used to exist 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 20 years ago, put the islands back in.
He says the way to do that is simple.
Fill them with rock. Get some boulders from out of Kentucky, big barges. You could get them in massive amounts to come down the Mississippi River.
He says this land causes eddies that stir the fresh and salt water, making it brackish, perfect for growing oysters. And he says building the land the way he wants is faster and more efficient than the government plan for river diversion. Plus, he says pollution from the river will kill Louisiana's oyster industry.
The river is too toxic, too polluted.
Robin, the owner of oyster fisheries, says pollution has already ruined other waterways that once had highly productive oyster fisheries.
Mobile Bay has died off. Apalachicola is dying off. Parts of Galveston Bay have died off for pollution. Chesapeake Bay died off. The pollution ends up in our ecosystem, ends up in our estuary, and nothing grows back.
On those occasions when the Army Corps of Engineers opens the Bonnet Carré spillway to divert high water from the Mississippi into Lake Pontchartrain, he says it's different.
That water goes through Lake Maurepas, Lake Pontchartrain, Lake Bourne, then through the Biloxi Marsh area. It done got filtered. But if we just introduce it straight into our estuaries, it's toxic.
Out here in the open water in Christmas Camp Lake, east of Lake Bourne, we come upon one of Robin's oyster harvesting crews. The oyster boat circles around a cane pole jammed into a reef as they dredge for oysters.
The dredge acts as the rake. Now we stay making a circle, just like a farmer would plowing the ground or, making his crop. We're pretty much just farming on the water. The oyster comes up like this, he comes up singly, and they put in the work to make it look even prettier. That's Louisiana's finest right there.
The crew feeds us oysters right out of the water as they explain the process that leads to this harvest.
We get crushed concrete or limestone, and we put it in the water. And the baby oyster's hooked to the limestone or the concrete. And then 3 years later, then you got this.
They break off the good oysters, throw the smaller ones and rock back into the water. Ram Miller says the crew harvests 200 to 300 sacks of oysters a day, each sack filled with 85 to 100 oysters.
These oysters will be in the city of New Orleans about 3.5 hours. Fresh product.
But Marty Mellarine and the others here are afraid this vibrant, thriving industry providing oysters to Louisiana, the Gulf Coast, and beyond is dying.
Our ancestors settled this place in 1778, so we've been here ever since. We don't want to leave. I have two sons. Can't do this. It's sad. It's sad.
At a time when part of the government's plan to fight coastal erosion calls for river sediment diversion, these oyster fishermen say that process is too slow and too ineffective to restore vanishing wetlands. Worse, they say the impact will destroy their way of life and kill a robust, valuable part of Louisiana's economy. Dennis Waltering, Eyewitness News.
A spokesman for Louisiana's Coastal Protection and Restoration Authority says river sediment diversion is just one part of the master plan and more of a long-term fix.
He says the greatest part of the master plan continues to be dredging, and that steps will be taken to protect and work with the oyster fishing industry to possibly move oyster leases.